in the poorer regions. People are leaving, seeking employment opportunities. We even have communities in which very few inhabited houses are left, as many people have been fleeing.
Land concentration has always been at the core of Colombia's armed and social conflict. Now the agrarian census has revealed that little had changed. 0.4% are the owners of over 40% of the rural lands.
As many people are fearing to lose the small piece of land that they have left, they are selling it to the best bidder. But also the multinationals are sending their people to threat and put pressure so that they can buy their lands. That means that we are being displaced from all sides.
Rural leaders say that the government is favoring the big companies in terms of opportunities and land concessions, something they find contradictory with the peace process underway in Havana.
The government is just interested in the laying down of arms by the FARC. Meanwhile, it continues to criminalize social protest, to monopolize land, to take control of the hydrocarbons and mineral resources in general, all the wealth in order to give it away to their transnational ally.
Meanwhile, for the next year, the government is planning to reduce the budget for rural development in a 52%, something that have triggered even further criticism. Natalia Margarita, telesur, Bogotá, Colombia.
Argentina's grandmothers of Plaza de Mayo held a press conference on Monday in which they confirmed that a woman has been identified as the 117th missing and restituted grandchild. Her parents were two left-wing activists that were victims of forced disappearance in December 1977, when her mother was 6 months pregnant. Though her name was not made public in order to fully respect her right to privacy, her grandmother, Maria Dominguez, was part of the conference.
Young people are very aware, and they will keep fighting so that we never have to go through a military dictatorship ever again, because that is the worst thing that can ever happen to a country.
The meeting also counted on the participation of lawmakers, human rights activists and government officials who pointed out the value of the right to identity.
We have taken state terrorism to justice. We have done the impossible to set a landmark regarding impunity in Argentina, and we have managed to eradicate it. We still have to recover the identity of these grandchildren, which will also mean recovering the identity of our nation.
The grandmothers of Plaza de Mayo estimate that around 500 people were kidnapped as children or born in custody and illegally given in adoption during the last dictatorship.
It's a great joy to be able to share the news that we have found another grandchild, number 117. We keep track of them to know that we are making progress and to keep us searching with hope.
Carlota also remarked the right to identity has been recovered, counting on the support of the state and the majority of the society, which does not want to live under a terrorist state ever again. Laureano Ponce, Telesur, Buenos Aires.
According to a delegation of the Center for Justice and International Law that visited Honduras, the situation of human rights defenders and journalists is still very dangerous.
What the law says is that when there is a crime against a human rights defender or a journalist, there has to be an immediate investigation, but until this moment the practice has been insufficient. There are many accusations in the Inter-American Court of Environmentalists assassinated, but if we analysed it, which cases have been sent to trial and which ones have a verdict, we're talking of less than 2%.
The National Congress approved in July a law for the protection of journalists and human rights defenders, but the law has yet to be put into practice.
Why it's been so long for the authorities of our country to understand that this is their urgent obligation to investigate and sanction so that the victims, the survivors, and the families have some hope, that they won't receive the answer that nothing happened, that they presented a claim in the national institutions but had to go later to international ones for answers.
The lack of investigation and real protection that allows human rights defenders and journalists to do their jobs is urgent in Honduras, where in the last 10 years 40 journalists have been killed and there has been no investigation into any of these cases. Gerardo Torres, Telesur, Central America.
In a press conference held Wednesday in Washington, D.C., Secretary of State John Kerry ratified the benefits of a nuclear deal with Iran reached by the group known as the P5+1.
This agreement gives us unprecedented tools and all the time we need to hold Iran accountable for its choices and actions.
And because this is
Senator Barbara Mikulski from Maryland declared her vote in favor of the Iran deal, solidifying the 34 votes needed in order for the deal to be approved by Congress. Secretary of State John Kerry fortified the senator's stance.
because of the utter absence of a viable alternative to this plan that we have devised, the benefits of this agreement far outweigh any potential drawbacks.
Inspections of Iran's nuclear power facilities are a key consideration included in the treaty at the bequest of the U.S.
The United States, of course, doesn't feel the need to respect the territorial integrity of Iran or other nations for that matter.
Experts feel that although there are enough votes to pass the deal in Congress, the large Republican Party opposition will not sit quietly.
I think Congress again will come forward with some ways to undermine the treaty.
Congress returns from their recess on September 8th and will have until the 17th to discuss and officially vote on the nuclear deal with Iran. Bianca Perez, teleSUR, Washington, D.C.
People's committees report the attacks carried out by the Jund al-Aqsa and Nusra Front extremists on the villages of Al-Fu'a and Kifraya, northern of Syria. These attacks are considered the most violent since a siege of the villages began 2 years ago. Local activists say that two towns were hit by more than 2,000 shells over the past 24 hours.
Terrorist shells hit the towns of Al-Fu'a and Kifraya daily, while the whole world and subservient international organizations remain silent. We call on them to take a stand and provide assistance in the face of this vindictive terrorism that has destroyed the two towns after a siege lasting more than 2 years.
Syrian military sources have told the Sana news agency that Syrian warplanes carried out intensive raids on the concentrations of the Fatah army in the vicinity of Al-Fu'a. Local army commanders said 12 terrorists were killed in the air raids, including leaders in the Nusra Front terrorists, which is the largest component of the Fatah army.
The Syrian army is doing everything necessary and is supplying the towns with aid in the face of terrorists. But we are asking why the world is silent about the terrorist crimes during the siege of the killing of innocent people just because they stand up for their country.
These violent attacks come as a response to the collapse of the truce that was signed between the armed groups and the Syrian army for a second time. These included the villages of Al-Fu'a and Kifraya near Idlib, as well as Zubadani to the west of the capital Damascus, where the army has made significant progress in controlling the most strategic neighborhoods. Hazm Abdullah, teleSUR, Syria.